Part 2. Supporting Verses. When we look at the Bible for other supporting verses here, we can find a good reference over in Leviticus chapter 26 verse 1, where it says, "Ye shall make you no idols nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God." Although the original commandment that we can see over in Exodus chapter 20 verses 4 and 5 generally talks about how we can't have any idols in heaven, on earth, or under the water, this verse here, even though it talks about the same kind of things, it is able to give us different locations and different examples of where these idols are not acceptable. In this first half of this verse, it talks about how we cannot make any kind of idol or graven image, just like when we were able to see in the 4th verse. It also goes on to talk about how we can't be bowing down before them. Where this verse here is a little different from the other is where it talks about how we can't set it up in our land. Now this part here had a pretty obvious meaning, where it literally means to not put it on our property. If they make it that close to us physically, it is an invitation for sin and temptations into our life. This is why we cannot have it that close, so we would be able to fight against the possibility of sin and temptations that those idols might present. However, this had a double meaning here too. If we allow those kinds of idols and graven images to get close to us, it will lead to the possibility of getting into our hearts and body. This allows potential for the whole body to eventually become corrupt. These commandments that we are given serve as a law for us to follow, but also as a warning here too. For example, if we were supposed to be starting on a diet, would going into a baker's shop filled with a bunch of delicious sweet treats that you would want to eat be a smart thing here to do? No, this is why God is using this verse here to serve as a warning that we shouldn't serve idols, because the further that they're away from us, whether it be on the land or our physical self, the better it will end up being. All of these are used to help us to follow and to keep God's commandments that He has given to us. Deuteronomy chapter 4 verses 16 through 19 says, "Lest ye corrupt yourselves, and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun, and the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and to serve them, which the Lord thy God hath given unto all nations under the whole heaven." Now this verse here, while it's still talking about the same kind of things, it has a different focus than the other verses that we have referenced up to this point here. Here in Deuteronomy, it goes just beyond just the don't have and don't make idols that most of these other verses here have talked about. Here it actually goes through a list, so to speak: male, female, beast, wing, creeping things. However, what it really means when we look at this verse here is just that these idols that we are warned about is really just creating anything that looks like anything that God had created. The reason this verse words it specifically this way is because God created everything. We can see that through Genesis chapter 1, which is why God doesn't want us to worship and to create all these idols and graven images that it talks about in these verses here. God doesn't want us to worship something that He had created. It would be like knowing who actually worked hard to finish a project, but giving credit to the person who didn't do anything. By doing this, it is not giving the proper reverence and respect that is due to the Creator of all, to God. These idols, all they do is to try and take away the importance from God and try to give some of the credit to other things, which, as we can see from this last verse, is something like an animal or something that God had already given life to and created.